Most people who've lived through a serious power outage will tell you there was one moment, usually around hour 6, when they wished they had done something so obvious and so cheap that they can't quite explain why they didn't. Here's that thing: the $2 item every blackout survivor wishes they had bought sooner. What the item actually is. The item is a candle, specifically, a plain, long-burning utility candle, the kind that costs between $1 and $3 at any grocery store, dollar store, hardware store, or gas station, and sits in a bin next to the checkout counter being ignored by everyone who has electricity. Not the decorative lavender pillar candle that burns for 6 hours and smells like a spa. Not the birthday candles. A plain, fat, unscented emergency candle, the type rated for 8, 12, or 15 hours of burn time, that was designed for exactly this use and has been ignored by modern households because nothing in their daily routine requires it. Before anyone objects that candles are obvious and everyone has them, most households don't have adequate candles. They have partial candles. They have birthday candle stubs. They have the remnants of a Christmas dinner centerpiece from 2 years ago and a Yankee candle that burned down 3/4 of the way to the wick holder. What they don't have is a candle they bought specifically for emergencies, in adequate quantity, with a plan for how to use it safely. That distinction is the whole video. The average power outage in the United States lasted 5.8 hours in 2020, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. That number has been increasing as extreme weather events become more frequent and infrastructure aging continues. In 2021, the average duration jumped considerably, driven partly by Winter Storm Uri in Texas, where outages lasted days to weeks for millions of people. A 5.8-hour average sounds manageable until you realize it means a meaningful number of outages are considerably longer to bring that average to that level, and none of those longer ones were manageable on birthday cake remnants and a phone flashlight. The EIA also reports that the frequency of outage events has been rising. In 2000, major power events, those affecting more than 50,000 customers, were relatively rare. By 2020, extreme weather events alone were causing an average of 22 major grid disturbances per year. The trend line is not moving in a reassuring direction. Against that backdrop, a $2 candle is not a quaint backup plan. It's a minimal response to a documented and growing infrastructure vulnerability that affects virtually every household in the country sooner or later. Before we continue, I prepared a step-by-step ebook that's currently on sale, packed with practical survival systems and simple life hacks. It's designed to help you save money, stay prepared, and improve everyday safety in a simple, realistic way. You can access it instantly while the discounted price is still available. You can find the link in the description. Now let's get back to the video. Why the candle specifically? The candle competes with several other items in the $1 to $5 range for the obvious preparedness item that nobody bought category. Matches, lighters, LED keychain flashlights, glow sticks, and tea light collections all have arguments in their favor. The candle wins for one specific reason: duration. A battery-powered flashlight runs until the batteries die. A phone flashlight is a battery drain that accelerates toward the moment when the phone is also dead. A single long-burning utility candle, one of the 15-hour emergency candles sold specifically for blackout use, runs for 15 hours on no batteries, no charging, and no ongoing resource consumption beyond the candle itself. Set it in an appropriate holder in the center of a room, and it provides ambient light adequate for reading, moving around safely, managing children and pets, and performing most normal domestic tasks without any of the directional-only limitations of a flashlight. The BTU output of a candle, approximately 80 BTUs per hour, provides a secondary benefit in winter. 3 candles burning in a small enclosed room contribute 240 BTUs per hour. Not a primary heat source, but a measurable supplement in a well-insulated space where every passive heat source matters. The psychological value of candlelight in a blackout is also not nothing. Darkness is disorienting. A home that has gone dark is a genuinely different physical and psychological environment from the same home lit normally, and navigating it with a phone flashlight produces a specific kind of low-grade stress that compounds over hours. Emergency management professionals who study post-disaster human behavior have consistently noted that any warm, consistent ambient light source significantly reduces anxiety levels in power-outaged households. which in turn reduces the impulsive and sometimes dangerous decisions made under elevated stress. The candle doesn't just light the room, it anchors it. The specific type to buy. Not all candles are created equal for this purpose, and it's worth being specific about what to actually purchase, rather than leaving people to wander into the candle aisle and emerge with something that lasts 4 hours and smells like pine forest. The optimal emergency candle is unscented, has a cotton or paper wick, not metal core wicks, which can release zinc or lead compounds when burned in enclosed spaces, has a wide enough base to be stable in a standard candle holder, and is rated for at least 8 hours of burn time. The 8-hour, 12-hour, and 15-hour versions are all worthwhile. The longer versions are generally thicker candles with more wax rather than more efficient candles. Emergency candles sold specifically for preparedness purposes, available in multi-packs at camping supply stores, hardware stores, and online, are typically designed with flat bases, drip-free formulations, and clean-burning wax. Brands like Sterno, UST, and Ready America sell multi-packs of 12-hour candles for a few dollars per candle. A 4-pack of 12-hour emergency candles provides 48 hours of emergency lighting, which is a cost per hour of light that no battery-powered alternative matches at that price point. For households with access to a dollar store, the basic unscented white pillar candle or the tall emergency candle sold specifically in dollar store emergency supply sections is entirely adequate and costs exactly $1. There is genuinely nothing wrong with the dollar store emergency candle. It burns, it lights a room, and it was designed for this. The premium emergency candle brands have some marginal advantages in burn consistency and drip control, but the functional difference in an actual blackout is minimal. Tea lights deserve special mention as a complementary item. A single tea light typically burns for 3 to 5 hours and costs pennies each when bought in bulk. A bag of 100 tea lights for under $5 provides 300 to 500 hours of light, more than enough for any realistic outage scenario for an entire household. Tea lights are compact, self-contained. The aluminum cup serves as the holder, and safe to use on any flat heat-resistant surface. They are the most cost-effective emergency lighting option available and require zero thought about holders because the cup is the holder. Taper candles, the tall, thin candles used in formal dinners, are less ideal for emergency use because they require a candlestick to be stable and produce a smaller flame with less room illumination than a pillar candle of equivalent burn time. If that's what the household has, they work, but they're not the right candle to purchase specifically for emergency use. The holder situation. A candle without a proper holder is a fire hazard rather than a preparedness tool, and this is where many households manage to snatch defeat from the jaws of a $2 solution. A candle balanced on a plate, resting in a glass, or propped against something that will definitely not tip over until it does. These are not adequate holders in an emergency context where people are moving around in reduced light, where children and pets are factors, and where the candle may need to be left unattended for short periods. A proper candle holder for emergency use has 3 characteristics: a base wide and heavy enough to resist being knocked over, a catch surface for drips that prevents wax from running onto whatever surface the candle rests on, and a secure socket or spike that holds the candle vertical even if the holder is bumped. The classic pillar candle holder made of glass or heavy ceramic meets all 3 criteria and costs $2 to $5 at any home goods store. This is the intended companion purchase to the emergency candle: $2 for the candle, $3 for a stable holder, and the household has a complete, functional emergency lighting solution. Lantern-style candle holders, enclosed glass or metal structures that protect the flame from drafts and reduce the risk of the flame contacting anything flammable, are the safety optimal choice for a household with children, pets, or any drafty conditions. A simple glass hurricane lantern, the kind sold at camping stores and garden centers for a few dollars, transforms a standard candle into a significantly safer light source. The glass enclosure doesn't eliminate fire risk, but it substantially reduces the risk of a flame being knocked sideways onto a cloth surface. A hurricane lantern also serves as a handle. The candle inside can be carried through the house without shielding the flame from hand movement. The optimal emergency lighting setup for a household is 2 or 3 long-burning candles in stable holders for room illumination, plus a collection of tea lights for task lighting in specific locations, plus 1 or 2 candle lanterns for mobile or high-traffic area use. The total cost of this setup is under $15 and provides emergency lighting capability that no other option at comparable cost can match for sustained duration. Candle safety in a real blackout. Fire safety with candles is a topic that requires direct engagement rather than being waved past with a generic, "be careful." According to the National Fire Protection Association, candles cause an estimated 7,400 home fires in the United States annually, resulting in an average of 90 deaths, 670 injuries, and $291 million in property damage per year. The most common causes of candle fires are candles placed too close to combustible materials, candles left unattended, candles placed in holders that aren't appropriate for the candle's size, and candles knocked over. Every one of those causes is preventable with specific habits. The 1-foot rule for candle safety, keeping all combustibles at least 1 foot from the candle flame in all directions, is the single most effective fire prevention measure for candle use. Placing a candle on a solid, flat surface in the center of a table with nothing nearby is dramatically safer than placing it on a nightstand with books, tissues, and charging cables stacked around it. Establishing a "never leave a lit candle unattended" rule applies in a blackout as much as in normal conditions. More so, because the stress and distraction of a power outage can make people less attentive. In practice, this means extinguishing candles before sleep, before leaving a room for any extended period, and before the adults in the household become too tired to notice they left one burning. This last scenario, the candle left burning when everyone falls asleep, accounts for a disproportionate share of candle-caused fires and is entirely preventable with the deliberate habit of extinguishing on the way to bed. Never use candles near a generator exhaust, near anything with fuel vapors, or in any space where combustible gases might be present. In a winter blackout where people are improvising heating solutions, the risk of fuel vapor accumulation from improper use of camp stoves or generators is elevated. An open flame in those conditions creates a compounded hazard. The snuffer, a simple metal cone on a handle used to extinguish a candle without blowing it out, reduces the risk of a blown-out candle reigniting from a still-burning wick ember. Blowing out a candle extinguishes the flame, but not always the ember at the wick tip, which can reignite in drafty conditions. A snuffer costs $2 and eliminates this specific risk cleanly. What the candle replaced and why nothing replaced it well. Before electricity, candles were the primary artificial light source for most of human history. The candle as an object has been in continuous development and use for at least 2,000 years. The earliest known candles, made from tallow, have been found in Chinese and Roman archaeological contexts dating to around 200 BC. The Egyptians used rushlights, reeds soaked in animal fat, even earlier, though these are more accurately described as precursors to the candle than candles themselves. The development of the braided cotton wick in the 1820s by French chemist Cambacérès was a significant improvement. It curled away from the flame and burned cleanly without constant trimming, a problem that had made earlier candle use more labor-intensive. Paraffin wax, derived from petroleum, became widely available after James Young of Scotland began industrial-scale paraffin production in the 1850s. This dramatically reduced the cost of candles by replacing expensive beeswax and tallow with a cheaper, more consistent material, and made quality candles available to ordinary households for the first time at affordable prices. By the time electric lighting became widespread in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Thomas Edison's commercial incandescent bulb was introduced in 1879, but broad household electrification in the United States wasn't complete until the 1940s in urban areas, and significantly later in rural ones. The candle had been refined over 2 millennia into a remarkably well-optimized object. Consistent burn time, predictable light output, safe and appropriate holders, requiring no external infrastructure. The candle didn't disappear when electricity arrived. It became decorative, ceremonial, and backup. The backup function has been neglected in modern households to the point where the candle aisle in any grocery store is now primarily scented home fragrance products rather than functional light sources. This has created a specific irony. The most ubiquitous retail candle product, the scented decorative candle, is nearly useless as an emergency light source. A soy wax or beeswax scented pillar candle, Optimized for fragrance diffusion, burns at a lower temperature, and consumes more surface area per hour of burn time than an unscented emergency candle. The decorative candle aisle has inadvertently trained consumers to expect candles to be expensive, short-lived, aromatic experiences, the exact opposite of what a functional emergency candle is supposed to be. Secondary uses nobody thinks about until they need them. The candle is primarily a light source in a blackout context, but treating it as a single-function item undersells it, because a candle is actually one of the more versatile objects in a basic emergency kit, and has secondary applications that become relevant in extended outage scenarios. Sealing. Dripped candle wax has been used for centuries as a sealant, for envelopes, for cork stoppers in bottles and containers, for gaps in wood or leather where a quick waterproof bond is needed. The tradition of sealing wax on correspondence was a direct application of candle wax technology before purpose-made sealing wax became its own product category. In a protracted situation where improvisation is necessary, candle wax is a readily available adhesive sealant that works adequately for a wide range of small applications. Lubrication. Running a candle across a drawer slide, a sticking hinge, a stubborn window track, a zipper that won't move, or a saw blade reduces friction effectively. The paraffin wax coats the surface and acts as a dry lubricant that doesn't attract dust the way oil does. This is one of those household tricks that was common knowledge before WD-40 became universal, and it still works just as well as it always did. Fire starting. A candle held to tinder for longer than a match can, producing a sustained flame rather than a brief one, makes lighting a campfire, a fire pit, or kindling for a wood stove considerably easier than matches or lighters alone when the fuel is damp or the conditions are windy. Starting a fire with a match is a 10-second proposition in good conditions and a 15-minute one in bad conditions. A candle makes the second scenario much closer to the first. Marking. Candle wax drawn across paper is a resist medium. Wax prevents liquid from penetrating the surface underneath. A message marked in candle wax on paper, then painted over with diluted paint or ink, becomes visible as the surrounding surface darkens. This sounds obscure until you consider that in an extended emergency, where standard communication methods are unavailable, people improvise. The fact that a candle can serve as a marking tool is a secondary capability that costs nothing. Thread and needle lubrication. Drawing thread across a candle before sewing through heavy material, canvas, leather, denim, reduces friction and fraying significantly, making hand sewing faster and easier. In a scenario where clothing and equipment repair becomes necessary without access to a sewing machine, the lubricated thread is a meaningful practical detail. None of these uses justify buying a candle over other items. The primary use as light in a blackout justifies that on its own. But they're worth knowing because they mean the $2 object has value beyond the obvious, which extends its utility in scenarios that go beyond a simple power outage. A candle without a reliable way to light it is an object, not a tool. The companion item to the emergency candle, and itself a sub-$2 item, is a box of waterproof or strike-anywhere matches, stored in the same location as the candles. Strike-anywhere matches, the old-fashioned type where the match will light on any rough surface, not just the box, have become harder to find in American retail as safety match designs have become the default, driven by manufacturing and retail regulations. But they're still available from outdoor retailers, and their advantage in an emergency where the matchbox has gotten wet or lost is real. A strike-anywhere match will light on concrete, on a brick, on rough metal, anything with adequate texture. A safety match separated from its box is, for practical purposes, useless. Waterproof matches, coated with a protective wax or lacquer that resists moisture, maintain their ability to light even after brief water exposure. UCO, Coghlan's, and similar outdoor brands sell them in small canisters for a few dollars. A canister of 25 waterproof matches costs about $2 and will outlast any reasonable emergency duration, since a single match is all that's needed to light a candle that then burns for 8 to 15 hours. The alternative, a butane lighter, is perfectly adequate under normal conditions, but has 2 documented failure modes in emergency contexts. It stops producing a reliable spark in very cold temperatures, as butane's vapor pressure drops significantly below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and the fuel runs out without warning. A lighter with minimal fuel in the reservoir may produce no flame and no way to know whether it's empty or just cold. A match produces a flame on first use or it doesn't. There's no ambiguity. For emergency preparedness purposes, the mechanical reliability of a match makes it the more dependable option for the lighting function, even if the lighter is more convenient daily. The ideal emergency kit holds both: a butane lighter for convenience in normal conditions, and a waterproof match container as a backup that functions in conditions where the lighter may not. Together, they cost under $5 and ensure that the candles, bought at $2 each, are actually usable regardless of conditions. How many candles to have? Quantity planning for emergency candles is worth doing rather than leaving it to guesswork. The U.S. Energy Information Administration recommends a minimum 72-hour, 3-day emergency preparation baseline. 3 days at 12 hours of candle burn time per day, the period from sunset to when people go to sleep, roughly, is 36 hours of candle burn time needed. A single 15-hour candle doesn't cover the 3-day baseline for a household that's relying on that candle as its primary light source. For a household of 2 to 4 people, 6 to 8 long burn candles, 12-hour or 15-hour, plus a bag of 100 tea lights. The candles provide room illumination for the main living area. The tea lights provide light for bathrooms, bedrooms, hallways, and task lighting without requiring the main room candle to be moved around. The total cost of this kit is approximately $15 to $20, stored in a drawer or small box near the main circuit breaker or wherever the household's emergency supplies are kept. The math for extended outage planning is worth working through. 14 nights at 12 hours per night equals 168 hours of candle burn time for the primary living area alone. A combination of 12 long burn candles, at 15 hours each, providing 180 hours total, and 2 bags of tea lights covers the full 2-week scenario for a household, at a cost of approximately $30 to $40. Compare that to the cost of a portable generator, typically $300 to $1,000, that additionally requires fuel, maintenance, outdoor operation to avoid carbon monoxide, and generates noise that announces to the neighborhood that someone is running power when no one else is. The candle approach doesn't run the refrigerator or charge a phone. It doesn't power medical equipment or run a fan. It does the one thing, provide light, that makes a dark house livable during an extended outage, and it does it without fuel consumption, noise, carbon monoxide risk, or complexity. Within the scope of what it does, it is genuinely the optimal solution at any price point for the duration category. Candles don't expire in any meaningful sense. Paraffin wax candles can be stored essentially indefinitely if kept away from heat, direct sunlight, and humidity. The wax will not degrade, the wick will not deteriorate, and the candle will light just as well in 10 years as the day it was purchased. This is a stored value argument that almost no other preparedness item can make as cleanly. Food rotates, batteries self-discharge, medications and medical supplies expire, but a box of candles bought today is available and functional indefinitely with no maintenance required. Rotating the supply and making it findable. Emergency supply that can't be found in the dark is no supply at all. This observation sounds obvious until it describes a specific experience. Groping through kitchen drawers by phone flashlight at 11 p.m. during a power outage, knowing there is a candle in the house somewhere, not being able to find it in time to save the phone battery. This scenario is common enough to be predictable, and it's entirely preventable with a single organizational decision made in advance. The candles and matches go in a specific, known, fixed location, not in the general kitchen utility drawer with the takeout menus and dead batteries. A specific location, known to every adult in the household, reachable in the dark by touch without assistance. The most practical approach is a dedicated small box or bag, a power outage kit, that lives in one consistent location. The box contains exactly the items needed for the first hour of a power outage: candles, holders, matches, and a backup battery flashlight. Finding this box by touch in a dark room should take 10 seconds, not 10 minutes. Putting the candles in the same spot every time, without exception, creates the spatial memory that makes them findable without vision. This sounds tedious until the lights are out. The kids are asking questions, and spatial memory is the only thing between functioning and fumbling. The location chosen should be one the whole household can navigate to with their eyes closed. A logical choice is the spot in the house where people stand when the power goes out and they first realize it's out. the kitchen counter nearest the main light switch, the hall closet near the circuit breaker, somewhere everyone already goes first. The rotation interval for candles, as noted, can be essentially indefinite. But the candle kit benefits from an annual check, same time as the smoke detector battery change. To verify the supply is still complete, matches get used, candles migrate to dinner parties, the flashlight batteries die. The annual check costs 5 minutes and prevents the discovery on a dark winter night that the emergency kit is a cardboard box containing one matchbook and a tea light stub. As emergency preparedness consultant and author Amanda Ripley wrote about disaster preparation psychology, people don't prepare for what they know is possible. They prepare for what they can viscerally imagine happening to them. A $2 candle and a box of matches is so simple that it doesn't feel like preparation, which is exactly why people don't do it. The $2 candle is not the only thing a household needs for a power outage. It's the thing they need first, before any other decision gets made about water, food, communication, or heat. Because without light, all of those decisions happen in the dark. Literally. The candle doesn't solve the power outage. It makes the power outage a manageable inconvenience rather than a disorienting crisis, which is the difference between a household that handles the situation and one that doesn't. The gap between having the candle and not having it is $2 and a trip to the checkout counter. The gap between managing a blackout and being managed by it is often exactly that wide. Everything else in an emergency kit, water storage, food supply, first aid, communication, builds on the foundation of being able to see. A $2 candle is not a metaphor for preparedness. It is preparedness in the most literal, immediate, and unambiguous form it ever takes. If this video reminded you to do the one thing you've been meaning to do for 6 months but kept forgetting, hit the like button. It helps this content reach more people. And subscribe to the channel for more straightforward preparedness content that doesn't require a bunker or a second mortgage.